Yo, what's up guys? So over the past couple of days, I've been trying to make a max damage, max crit bunny build to pretty much just destroy anything and everything that she touches. I'd just like to point out this is an ultimate bunny guide, but you can do this on normal bunny, but it won't be hitting as much because high voltage is only available for ultimate bunny, but you can take that skill out and put something in and still achieve quite a lot of damage. So let's jump into the build here real quick. So let's go into our modules. So as I was saying, high voltage will give you a 100% or a 100% skill power modifier pretty much for free. So if we go into here, we see our damage skill power is times 250. And if we just take that off and then we save it, it will go down to 148. So it does give us an insane amount of damage there for free. It's pretty much a free slot, right? So that's a huge amount of damage going to be stacked on top of all of the other damage that we're about to put into the build and all the other crit damage that we're going to put into the build as well. So that is kind of maximizing the damage. If you do have ultimate bunny, I would suggest definitely putting high voltage into that if you want to be killing everything. So let's jump into the other modules. So we've got skill concentration, which is crit hit damage, and we've maxed that out at 150%. Moving on, we've got MP accelerant, which is skill duration by 20% with max MP by 3%. Doesn't really mean anything, but the skill duration is just so we have more uptime on our lightning emission, because that's where all of our damage is going to be coming from. So moving on to skill simplification, again skill power modifier plus 84% with max MP minus 25. That's okay because we're not really needing all of the MP, and it is kind of mitigated by MP accelerant as well. Then we got emergency measures, which is skill hit crit rate by 64%, just allowing us to crit a lot as well. We'll go through how crit works in a minute, and you will need to stack crit rate as much as you can just because the skill modifiers are kind of quite low on the base descendant. And then on top of that, it gives us a skill crit hit damage of 27%. Now, iron defense was really the only thing that I could find with kind of a higher skill damage modifier with maxed out of plus 12. And then on the other side, we do pretty much get 90% defense. That does help us kind of stay alive a little bit. You do want to kind of max out Soccer Punch here and get a Catalyst in Soccer Punch so you get an extra 5% module slots, because this is very module hungry when you do want to increase or max some of your cards out. Again, I just want to show you here what I've kind of done with her and why it's taken so long for me to kind of make this build guide is because, as you can see, all of these slots are being completely stacked. And that's just so we can get the max out of this. You don't need to do this if you want to run this build, but if you want to run the build to the max amount of crit chance, and max amount of damage, you will need to do this. But it is fun, and it does an insane amount of damage. And I will show you how much damage it does in a minute by taking on the Devourer. So RK acceleration here. Now this skill is kind of completely up to you. I choose to use this skill because I get more procs out of lightning emission when I am running. So you're running quite fast, you're holding a light weapon or a pistol, and it does proc more kind of triggers off of your high voltage than normal. So, but you can put in like either more damage or more kind of MP, like max MP or MP recovery in there if you want to, depending on how you feel about this build when you run it. But that's just what I run. Focus on electric. Now there's two skills you can use here, and it does change how you work with the build, but the reason why I use focus on electric is because it gives us the 77% extra damage to, or extra skill power to electric, and it gives us a bit of skill cooldown as well, allowing us to keep the lightning emission up for longer. And what I was using was maximize skill power 87%, because you do get 10% more, but you do get really heavily punished by that 50% cooldown, which means we don't have that damage up as often, or you're going to need to take a damage card out in order to put to kind of reduce that cooldown, just because that gives us 50% cooldown on top of what we have at the same time. So it really it pushes our cooldowns up, so we don't have our skills up for as long. So that kind of doesn't do much there, and that's why I use and focus on electric. It does give us a little bit more. And if we go into skill insight, again, critical hit rate 115.4%, just going to be critting as much as we can. Moving on to skill expansion, just increases the range, and that also stacks on top of high voltage as well, because when you look at high voltage, it says emission constraint increases range and increases damage instead. So it just stacks on top of that, allowing us to have more range, and our range with that one card goes up to 17 meters, which is fantastic. And then our last card is Front Lines, which again, crit hit damage by 64%, and then skill crit hit rate 27%. And in total, all of those cards coming together gives us an electric power of 77%, skill cooldown of 6, critical hit rate 207%, crit hit damage 207%, skill modifier power 97%, and then with some skill effect range of 90 to 92, and then some speed modifiers of 19. So we can see that our percentages are pretty stacked. Now let's go over to why we need crit hit rate to be so high. And the reason for that is because even though we have 207% crit hit rate, our crit is actually only 30%. So we're going to be critting 30% of the time, which is kind of low for two cards that are pretty much focused specifically on critting. I would expect at least about 50% here, just because I've dedicated so many slots to crit hit rate. But you see our skill crit hit damage is at 4.3. So the damage that we're putting out is going to be times by 4.3. So that's always going to be quite nice. So let's go into actually the modules that we're going to be running here. So I am going to be running the Thunder Cage, and the reason why I'm going to be doing that is because on our reactor, the Thunder Cage mount is there, and then it means I get an extra 160% extra skill damage. And then just moving down from that, we get skill hit. Well, I can't actually move off of that. It's kind of a shame. So I'm kind of using my fingers right now. But skill hit power boost ratio, electric skill power boost ratio with fusion skill power boost ratio. The fusion skill power, we kind of want it to be singular, but unfortunately there isn't an electric singular power drop right now that I can go farm. So we just have to kind of settle with fusion skills, but that does work with our ultimate if you're going to be using that. But ideally, we would want it to be singular. And then just moving down to the last set of skills here, right at the bottom with our ultimate and our rare skill, we have a singular power boost ratio of 0.8 and a singular power crit hit rate of 29%. So these, again, I would like them to be a little bit higher than what they are right now, but they are still pretty high. And I'm also still kind of playing around with these. Do I go with crit hit rate here, or do I go with 2 singular power boost ratios, maybe singular and electric, or just power, and see if that kind of applies more to the damage. So I'm still kind of playing around with those to see kind of what the max crit I can get so far. And the max crit I have got is 1.3 mil. So it is doing a great amount of damage. Just moving on to our components here. We've got auxiliary power. I'm just running max shield with MP recovery out of combat. Just because when we stop hitting, we can run around a little bit, regain our MP, and then use our skills again. Max shield with some MP recovery in combat with max MP in our sensor. Sorry, moving on to our memory defense, just again because that does stack on top of our defense card, so that does give us a little bit more survivability. Shield recovery in combat with the MP recovery modifier. The MP recovery modifier here is the most important thing, because again, we do want to try and recover as much MP as possible so we can start running again. And to kind of convert that MP back into our energy, so then we can use our skills again. And then moving back on to our processor, again, just main stat is defense or shield. It doesn't really matter, with some max shield there. Anything else is you're looking for either max shield, shield, or defense, and then it's going to be the secondary stat is going to be MP recovery in combat, in combat, out of combat, or just an MP recovery modifier is what you're going to be looking for in your external components. So if we come out of here, I've just got a Thunder Cage. I'm not going to be using it, so I'm not going to go over what is in it. So that doesn't really matter too much. So let's take on the Devourer real quick, and we'll show you. This is on hard mode. Is it on hard mode? Yes. So it's on hard mode right now. Let's just start a private intercept. And to show you the amount of damage that we're currently dealing right now with the build. But as it loads, guys, I really like the build. I'm enjoying it. You do just get to run around and one-tap things. It is a fantastic build to run. It is pretty MP heavy again because we don't really have too much recovery other than on our modules. But that's a kind of fine, really, to be fair. You see the MP coming back quite quickly here anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. There you go. It just goes, covers quite a bit there. So we're just going to convert that all into energy. Once we stack our energy up to full, we're going to get our passive. And on our passive, it means that we do more damage. So as you see here, we can kind of just like melt his shields down just by running. You can just run underneath him. He sometimes does the ability where he'll put the poison patch underneath him, but mostly not. And we're already through his shield. He's going to run around a bit. Keep running around. We're not even using our gun here. You have to make sure that you keep the Thunder Cage equipped if you want to be doing the damage from the reactor. It won't be doing the damage from the reactor if you don't have that activated. So you won't have that extra 160% damage onto your build. So let's just... I guess I'm going to use a gun for this just because it's... Okay, just don't do that then, I guess. But we can shred these, and we know if you don't do like an electric build, you can kind of see how difficult these are to kill. If you have done the Devourer before. I mean, we can just like lightning him up here. Why not? Let's just show you how much damage we're doing here. We're just going to shred him. We don't really have any energy here, so we're just going to keep running around. We've got some energy on the floor here. We'll convert that. Right. Just jump over that. Otherwise, it will one-shot you. But yeah, guys, that was a Devourer on hard mode. As you can see, we pretty much just obliterated him. That skill that comes up with that kind of the poison balls and that he fires everywhere, do jump it. It will one-shot you. I wouldn't mess around with that. You're not built for any survivability here, though your defense is about like 11k or whatever. Let's go. So our defense is at 18.9k with 1,000 shield. You will not tank that Devourer here. Okay, so we're not built for any sort of kind of damage or any sort of kind of like survivability. Sorry. So don't get hit because you will go down. You're kind of a glass cannon. But yeah, that's kind of the build so far. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm still playing around with it. I'm still trying to get the most out of the Ultimate Bunny build. And just to go into, sorry, I didn't go over. If you're a normal bunny and not an ultimate bunny, obviously the high voltage isn't going to be available for you. So just take that out and just put something else in if you want to. But if you take electric transition for your shield to add a bit more tankiness to you, what will happen is that your energy transfer from your MP to your electric, it will just eat it alive and you won't have too much MP left. So I would be kind of wary here. You could have some MP recovery put into this slot instead of that to try to just boost your MP recovery back up again, and that will apply to your modules if you do have MP recovery on those modules. So I keep smacking my mic, but that would be what I would suggest, and that skill is the selective recovery MP. So if you are going to run electric transition, run selective recovery MP and make sure that on your external components you have the MP recovery and MP kind of like boost modifiers, because they will stack on top of each other. But that's my suggestion. Guys, that's me for this one. That's my build so far. And as the police go past, I'm going to get out of here and I'll see you later.